Welcome ladies and gentlemen to my humble channel. Today we are going to go over how to paint a Khorne Bloodletter. Any aspiring champion looking to create a Khorne flavored army is going to have a lot of these guys, as they are both cheap and deadly. While I will admit that today's paint job is going to go a bit overboard for a single troop model that can be brought in the dozens if not hundreds, it doesn't hurt that when you guys are lopping off heads that they are doing it in style. I will have a full list of paints in the description with the order in which they are applied for those of you who want a shopping list. Let's start with Vallejo Black as our primer and undercoat. You don't need an airbrush, but I prefer my primer and major base colors to be airbrushed for a smooth and thin finish. And it's all about that finish, ladies and gentlemen. Next up is the Khorne Red as the base for the skin. Basically all over the model, no need to be neat here. As an FYI, all the colors I will be using today are from the Citadel line from Games Workshop, except for the black. Then we are going to do a wash all over that red, specifically using Null oil to create some shading. Make sure it doesn't pool in any of the raised areas if you can, but in all honesty, it doesn't really matter at this point because the next step is going to take care of that. And here is why it didn't matter. On this step, you're going to do a heavy dry brush of Mepheston red. Basically, you're going to hit all the raised surfaces of the model, leaving really just the deepest crevices only. And this is going to brighten the bloodletter right up. Then we are going to hit the model with another dry brush, specifically with Wild Rider Red. This is a bit brighter, and you're mainly aiming for areas that are sharper, like the hands, elbows, tops of the thigh, those sort of places. Make sure it's not heavy. Lighter is better here. The final dry brush is Troll Slayer Orange. For this, not only do you want to be very light, barely any paint on those bristles at all, but you're focusing on just the sharpest spots. So the face, the fingers, that's it. Don't overdo it. A little at a time is all you're going to need for this step. To blend everything together, we are going to use Bloodletter Glaze. Don't go too heavy on this, but you're aiming to cover all of the red areas and give it ample time to dry. Now, the skin is complete, though while the skin looks utterly fantastic, if I do say so myself, without other colors to give it some contrast, it's still going to look extremely bland on the tabletop. So let's start filling in those other features. We will start with Balthasar Gold on all of the metal pieces except the sword, specifically the sword blade. You are going to be looking for any of the sigils or icons woven into the demon's skin, like on his thighs or his head, and of course you're also going to want to hit the hilt of the sword that he's carrying. Now this gives a nice brass look, which obviously pleases the Lord of Skulls. Next, we are going to color the sword blade, the claws, and horns with Vallejo Black. We want it to be nice and clean, so you're probably going to need 2 coats. This is going to contrast nicely with the predominant red of the skin. Moving on to the smaller details, we will use Screamer Pink for the tongue, after that, we're going to use Zandri Dust for the teeth, Be careful to only hit the teeth. Try not to go too crazy here, as the mouth is probably nice and dark from all the shading done previously. Lastly, for our base colors, we're going to use Yriel yellow for the eyes and just a small bit on your finest, smallest brush. You might need to hit it 2 to 3 times. Yellow in general is pretty difficult to work with, but you want to do it very gently each time to make sure that you hit just the pupil. Right now, we are hitting the final stride. All the base colors are now locked in. So we have 2 rounds of shading before us. The first round, we're going to use Null and Oil again. And this is mainly for the teeth and tongue, as black doesn't shade well with anything really. The second round of shading is going to be Reikland fleshshade. And this is going to be for all the brass pieces that you have. Now that the shades are done, we have 4 remaining colors to go, all of them edge highlights. First, Genestealer purple for the tongue. Aim for the top parts of the tongue and the sharpest corners, like on the very end. Next is Ushabti bone for the teeth. You don't want to cover the whole tooth, just the middle of each one, and really you're looking just a dab really. This makes the teeth as a whole stand out much more. Now to use Administratum gray to highlight all of the black areas, in particular the sword. And this is going to help bring definition to your sword, the horns, and what have you, so that way they stand out a lot more. Last and certainly least is Stormhost silver for all of the bronze bits. You don't have to go too crazy here. Mainly the sword hilt and the handle will do. Past that, you want to look for any prominent bronze markings on the skin, like in particular the forehead, where you will want to do your little edging as well. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Bloodletter brought to you in a measly 16 colors. As mentioned, the list of colors used in the order I use them is in the description below, should you want it. Beyond that, I do hope that you enjoyed this video, or at least found it useful in painting your army. Most of the tutorial, specifically the skin and brass pieces, can be used on other Bloodletter models, such as Heralds, Skull Taker, or even Blood Crushers, though one has to wonder how you crush blood. Anything's possible in the warp, I guess. Probably not best to think about it. In any case, until next video, ladies and gentlemen.